Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Paragon Guide. I am Sylphin. In this video we are taking an approach to wards, vision, and the mini-map. So we're going to take a look at wards first, kind of what are they, what are the different kinds, how do you place them, how do you upgrade them, what can you do to card them, how to best use them, move on to vision, and then the mini-map. So we're going to start off with what kind of wards are there. There are two types. The first type is this. Just this. It's a 1 point card here that you can get right off in the early game. And you place a vision ward to reveal the surrounding area for 3 minutes. As you can see, there is one charge with a cooldown of 1 second. You can only get one charge, so really the cooldown does not matter. This ward does not go invisible, and it just sits there for 3 minutes and gives you vision. That is the first kind of ward. Very, very nice with a 1 point cost to get in the early game. Now, there's the other kind of ward. You can see the scout ward is still here, but forget that this one is here. And there are other ones. Now, take a look at the unique active. Place a shadow ward. Remember that the last one was a vision ward. Place a shadow ward to reveal the surrounding area for 3 minutes. Same duration. Charges refresh at base. Same thing. Cooldown 1 second. Same thing, but charges 2. You get 2 of a different kind of ward, a shadow ward. As the name says, a shadow ward goes into the shadow realm after a very brief delay. You can't actually attack it during that delay. That's a very interesting little tidbit. And it goes invisible. It provides you vision, but it also reveals things that are also in the shadow realm, while this one does not. So you can kind of think of the name as apt. This gives you plain old normal vision of normal enemy heroes, things that aren't in the shadow realm, like a Kalari in a shadow mode, or while they are on the shadow pad. So this gives you normal vision, just like a normal hero. This, though, gives you shadow vision, which I'm sure is not a thing, but I'm coining it right now. It gives you shadow vision. You can look into the shadow realm, see a Kalari in her stock mode, and see enemies that are in the shadow pad. There's 2 different kinds, the Scout's ward that gives you vision wards, and these other kinds of wards here that give you shadow wards. Now, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different kind of shadow wards. Some give you different stats, physical damage and health, while some gives you a whole slew of cards, energy damage, energy pen, and lifesteal on this card. Physical damage, physical pen, and lifesteal on this card. As you can see, these 2 cards here are the only. Oh yes, and the Lord's Ward, and yes. So the Shadow Ward's Assassin Ward and the Lord's Ward are the only ones that don't give you fully upgraded bonus, and because of that, they give you 3 stats at the beginning, as you can see: physical damage, physical pen, lifesteal. And these others that have a fully upgraded bonus only have 2 basic stats, physical damage and mana on this one, plus that fully upgraded bonus. Now, there's some strategy involved here that we can talk about later on versus these cards, but that's for later. So 2 different kinds, all with different upgrades here. As you can see, the Scout's Ward doesn't give you any stats as well, so we can discuss that a little bit later. We're going to go in-game and start talking about how to place them, where to place them, where's the best places to place them, and what's kind of the general strategy of getting them, upgrading them. Can you switch them out for a different kind later on in this video? Also, vision and minimap is later on as well. So right off the bat, there are a number of options available to us. So a majority of the time you are going to be probably a caster or a ranger. If you're a tank or a jungler or a support, you perhaps have some options, but really the standard, I would say, for most people are going to be getting a Scout Sword. I don't have one in this build, just so I can show you other things as well. That you get a Scout Sword for 1 point, and then you get maybe a health potion and a mana potion, or a health potion and some cast tokens, or some damage tokens, or a Scout Sword and 2 strike tokens. You have some options, but I would recommend for all players to go for at least a Scout Sword in the early game. There are some exceptions that could possibly work, and actually is going to be something that I'm going to showcase here. As I am a special hero, I'm Chimera, and I'm going to be a jungler, I'm actually getting a Brawler's Key. Now, it's just a separate reason because I have a good sustain ability here in the early game that enables me to get my health back, and I can get those early harvesters very, very quick, so that I can better benefit my team. But most people, pretty much all the time, ladies and gentlemen, I would recommend getting Scout Sword. Another exception to this rule could perhaps be somebody like a Murdoch, who has his static traps that he can set along the sides and just play very cautiously, freeze his lane close to his tower, and you could arguably get away without without a ward. Somebody like Grim, who has a very strong knockback on his Q, very good slowdown on his E. There are some heroes that if you are sneaky enough, you can get away with it. But ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely recommend getting at least a Scout Sword in the first 3 card points of the game. Now, when you have your Scout Sword and you are in lane here, you have some options. Now, a Scout Sword, remember, only places a vision ward on the map, gives you normal vision. Like if I was to stand here, if I was to put a Scout Sword right here, I would not be able to see into the shadow pad. It gives me normal vision. Now, if I wanted to circumvent that, I could, as because I'm here in the Shadow Ward, I can see into the Shadow Realm. I can see into, you know, if somebody else was standing here. You can place a Shadow Ward right here, right at the edge of this shadow pad, so that it can detect enemies coming in from their jungle, from your jungle, rotating from the other lane, and it could see people that are in this shadow pad. It's actually much better than you would think. A lot of people actually, and I'm gonna get killed here. This is just a bot game because I'm just trying to explain to you guys what to do. Because you can do that, you have people actually end up not really going, not really doing, they don't look very quick when they're going through the shadow pad. They typically actually don't tend to look down. Lots of times enemies just walk right through the shadow pad, totally ignoring your Scout's ward. Now, I'll share with you another good spot to put it, but in the next 3 card power that you get, getting an upgraded ward is an absolute must. You have to get an upgraded ward. There is really no excuse, because there is good stats that you want for your hero on these cards, and with a slew of 1-point upgrades, you can get a good amount of value from your early game cards. So here you can see I'm going to go for my Guardian's Ward, because I want a little bit of health that I put on here, and this minor strike. So now that we have our Shadow Ward, let's go take a look at one more good spot to place our Scout's Ward, and where we can start placing these Shadow Wards. Now, some good spots for you to place a Scout's Ward are on top, well, all wards, in fact, are on top of ledges, using that verticality that is unique to Paragon to the utmost advantage. So, if we get our Scout's Ward out, we can see that we can actually put it here on that ridge. And because you want to freeze a lane in the early game, by freezing you mean you want the minions to be battling right here so that you are nice and safe inside your tower to get those last hits, I would actually suggest putting your Scout's Ward about there on top of your ridge here away from melee heroes so that they can't get to it and attack it. So you either want to place it right about there, your scout's ward right about there in the shadow pad, or up top here so that only enemy ranged heroes can get it. Some other good spots, if you're feeling really quite aggressive or you simply have a moment, you can place it on the enemy side as well to give you even more of a notification if the enemy comes your way. So here in the mid lane, Scout's wards have a tougher time. Unless you really kind of go way off here and place them up here, or place them up here, or even right there, they have a tougher time, simply because this lane is so wide. It is really quite hard to get them into a elevated position, as all this area is quite elevated, and it's just a tougher time for Scouts wards. So a really good spot for them is up here on this side, or one of my favorites, kind of right up here, if you're really worried about enemies coming from your side of the map. Now that we have our shadow wards, though, you can place them with relative safety, even just right here, or just kind of walking on over and placing them up here on this ridge, or if you want to be really aggressive, kind of up there on that side. So you have some options on in the mid lane as for where you want to place these wards, kind of off to the side, in elevated positions, so that they can detect the enemy coming your way. Now, as a jungler, as you are warding off the enemy jungle, you have some options. If you are worried about your lane buddies getting ganked, you can place wards right in the middle here to provide a little bit of warning for your teammates. There is sometimes where it pops up right there. You can put it there, although I think melee heroes can still get to it there. Now, if you are going into the enemy jungle, you can certainly put them right up top there. That means that melee heroes, have to go all the way through the jungle and around to place them up there. You can place them right underneath the red and blue orbs, right underneath there. That is a option for you when you are doing that in the jungle. So looks like, again, I'm just trying to showcase this for you guys, and I keep getting bullied. So, as I was saying, there is a very good option of putting a shadow ward here right underneath the red or blue camps, but that actually does quite well when you take a look at how far it extends. It really covers the input there and also covers this input here. So imagine if this is the enemy jungle. If you do that, it actually covers quite a large area. If you want general vision of just people moving through the jungle, especially as when they crisscross the jungle, this works very, very well. If you want to just periodically put one shadow ward kind of right underneath the blue or red camp's butt, or another option is actually kind of right here or right above here, or I believe there's an area, yeah, so right on that ledge right there is a good spot as well. I personally like kind of right about here, and also maybe even in the shadow ward here, but remember, if they are in the shadow ward, that enables them to damage it, so you want to kind of keep it a little bit away, probably right around there is best. Now, there are of course other spots you want to, if you are more focused on protecting the lane, what you can do is walk into the jungle a bit, place them right about here to really cover this area to, give notice to your lane buddies, or if you want, come in, place them generally in right at the fork, the very first fork that you come across when you enter the jungle. That works really quite well. So if you're coming in here, you can generally put it right on top, right about there, just like in that other jungle, or on the other side into that very first fork. The other side has a very clear very first fork when you walk into the jungle, kind of like right here. Placing it right there gives you good lane good lane presence, or lane vision, sorry, when you want to give vision of the jungle. Warding off Orb Prime, really, there's no real secret to it. I mean, putting it right underneath, not the smartest, because enemies could be damaging it. Putting it right here would certainly give you good vision. Putting it right in the middle gives you vision of the harvester area there. Or, what I would personally prefer, kind of right here on the ledge, gives you good vision of Orb Prime, and also of any movement that the enemy does in their jungle, just in this part here. So, likely, the enemy team will come from here, or through there. So, putting a ward right about here actually works really quite well to give you good vision here. You will see people running around here in that, when they're taking Orb Prime. So that basically covers warding off the battlefield of Agora. In general, you want to put it up high in forks, off to the side of lanes, trying to figure out where is the best kind of radius that you can see the most of. It's really not that difficult, but there are some good nifty spots to place the wards. Now we move on to carding for wards and upgrading them. So I obviously recommended in the beginning you get at least a Scout's Ward, a few strike tokens, a health potion, a token, and a Scout's Ward, and then with that next 3 card power that you get after that, you can use to upgrade your Scout's Ward into a proper, upgraded Shadow Ward, and then you can use it to fully upgrade it, etc. There is the Lord's Ward and those Assassin's wards that don't have the fully upgraded bonuses. Those are some of my favorite cards to get for that Shadow Wards and get for those unique stats, and then actually not upgrade them because they don't have that upgraded bonus, and I would prefer to actually use those points into other cards where there's a little bit more value in getting that upgraded version. So in those cards, the Lord's Ward and the Assassin's Ward and that other one I'm forgetting the name of, I typically don't really actually like upgrading those too much. As a jungler, if I was to get it, say, in the Grux, I really like that Assassin's Ward on Grux. I would actually get that, save the upgrades for later when I need a little bit of penetration, and then I actually upgrade penetration on that Assassin's Ward. It is very useful as a jungler. You can definitely be keeping wards right to the end game, so you can be as useful as possible. In this situation, you can see that I went for the Guardian's Ward for a little bit of health in the early game, just to get some more sustain when I'm in fights. So I definitely recommend, ladies and gentlemen, getting an upgraded ward as fast as you can, putting as many 1-point upgrades in it as possible to your liking to get that fully upgraded bonus to really help out increase your power in the early game. In some builds, I do actually switch out the wards that I use. For example, in a Decker or Muriel build, I actually really like going for the Magus Ward. It gives us a little bit of mana, which is very important for casters that they have mana issues, and I give usually 1 mana upgrade in there. But it also gives us damage, and damage on support heroes is best. Really, the only time for them is in the early game. Getting that in the early game, getting those last hits, being a little bit more useful in those little ganks and team skirmishes that happen in the early game, very, very powerful. The damage definitely falls off in the mid game, and that is the point where I actually usually swap out the Magus Ward for something like the Lord's Ward that gives us some mana, going for the tankiness, the health for the tankiness, the mana for the just for the sustain and that mana issue that casters had, and more importantly, that cooldown reduction. I use that in combination with, say, a Pendulum of Lords to get a good amount of cooldown reduction. As you can see, there are effective ways for you to change these out with another kind of ward to give you different kind of stats that best suit you in the mid game or perhaps even in the late game. I haven't really found a a use for switching out my wards in the late game, but I could certainly foresee somebody figuring that out. Now, we can talk about warding in the early game versus the late game, but there really isn't much to say. In the late game, you can definitely, as you will be closer to the enemy side of the map, or closer to your side of the map, you will certainly be able to go into the enemy jungles on the sides and place those wards on those first choke points, so that, or those first bottlenecks, or the forks in the jungle, to give you good vision while you are pushed up onto the enemy side of the map, or if you are on your own side of the map defending your team. So really not much to say there. Just be smart with where you're placing them. Don't be afraid to go into the jungle a bit to place that ward down to give you a good amount of vision against the enemy team. So this is as good a time as any to talk about the mini-map. So if we take a look up here in the top right-hand part of your screen, that is the mini-map. Now, well, you can see that this little thing right here is yourself, and you can see that this is where you are aiming, and that is where you can see. Right in front of us here is the core, kind of a little circle with the triangle, and these are our 3 inhibitors that you can see, one right there, one right there, and one right there. In front of that is the tier 2 towers, which right there, and right there, and then tier 1 towers right there, and right there. You can see the enemy team still has their tier 1 and tier 2 towers on these sides. Now, there is also the jungle, so you can see that in between these lanes here is the jungle, and in between here on this side is the right jungle. Inside those jungles you have the white camp, which are just generic white minion camps that give you XP and some card power. The red and blue camps here you can see are special camps that give you other special bonuses, and you can see that these blue things here are the harvesters. There's one on this side, one there, and one there. There's also one here, and one here. Now right here it's not shown, but it's actually quite appropriate. It's black, and that is the black buff right here. On right here in this little triangle here with the white around it, that is the Prime Orb Guardian that gives you the Prime Orb when you kill it. That is basically the mini-map here. You can see that there are 2 little jutouts on this side, and that is when you get the Prime Orb, you drop it off either on your side to respawn your inhibitors, or you put it on the you drop it off on the enemy side to activate your prime cards. That is basically the minimap. That's the symbols anyway. So you can see the center lane, the right lane, and the left lane all have their areas here. Now, how often should you be looking at it? Frequently. At least, oh goodness, at least every 10 seconds. I would say at least every 5 seconds. But realistically, I'm looking at it every, oh gosh, every 2-3 seconds, to be honest with you. Like very, very, very often. Especially when you are going to have, you know, when your wards are dinging, you're going to be looking at that constantly. You'll hear bling, and then you'll have to look to see if that is in fact your ward that's close to you, if the enemy is coming for you, etc. Looking at it very, very frequently, every few seconds. Like right now I'm looking at it. Right now I'm just staring at it. I'm trying to see what is happening. Now, on that note, try to decipher the enemy plan. Try to see what are they doing. What is their intentions? I am always counting the enemy, counting how many there are on the minimap, because I need to know if there is only one of the enemy team on the map and I am pushed up way far into the enemy team, like you can see this gadget is right on the right side there. If I can only see one of them on the map and there's none dead, I know that I need to be very careful because the enemy is probably coming for me. So always be counting the enemy team, seeing how many you can see on the minimap, and trying to decipher their plan. This thing now is turning back. I can just see by looking at him that he's attacking the minion wave. Oh, there's that Grux, and he's going to push me. So there, we know that only one of the enemy team is dead. We can only see 2 on the minimap, so that means that there's 2 more somewhere on the map that we don't know what they're doing. So always try to decipher the plan, and then ultimately react to that, to the information that it gleans. I'm not going to start talking about strategy in this video, but at least react to it in the best way that you see fit. Always, always react to it. You have to see, you know, you have to use that information, and I think that is the biggest thing that stops new players from really being successful in this game, and that is simply, oh, I used it on the wrong person. And that is simply just using it to the best of its ability. It has information for you. Use that information. There are lots of videos on strategies. I'm going to make one very, very soon. So please, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to the minimap. Look at it frequently, every few seconds. Try to decipher what the enemy team is doing, and use that information to formulate a plan and execute that plan. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's really it about wards, vision, and the minimap. Always, 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 always having a ward. The really only exception to that rule would be late game carries. They would be probably the only heroes, I would say, who shouldn't have a ward. Tanks arguably could certainly use that slot for some more health, but really carries and perhaps tanks are really the only individuals I would say in the late game could swap out their ward for a more useful stat. Having vision is incredibly underestimated currently. Way too few people have wards, especially against Kallari. If you have an enemy that has a Kallari on it, absolutely you need those shadow wards, and you still need those shadow wards anyways. Using your wards here to just completely litter the jungle with wards to show the enemy movement, to save lives in the early game, to help conserve any advantage that you get in the early game, to really help snowball for the rest of the game. Guys, the minimap, look at it frequently. Try to discern the enemy team's plan. Count how many enemy team members you see on the minimap, and most importantly, react to it. React to it in the way that you see fit. If there's a tower that's getting pushed up, that's completely pushed up, and the whole entire enemy team is dead, push into that tower. React to the information that the minimap gives you. That's pretty much it for this. For this, so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please let me know down in the comments if you found this useful. If there's anything I forgot, please put it down there for people to learn from. Please like the video if you like it, dislike if you dislike. Please leave a comment down below. Like I said, share it with the community, and of course subscribe. If you found this useful or simply enjoyed the content, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Until next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.